Hokie hangover. Sorry, folks, we couldn't be live for this episode, but we definitely wanted to get a Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech preview out there for you. Even though you may not be all that excited about this game and how it may end up going, Virginia Tech going to hot Atlanta to face the 13th ranked Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.
They're pretty good.
Are they, Mike?
They're better than Virginia Tech,
Yes,
but I don't know if they are.
accurate.
I don't know if they're the 13th best team in the country.
Let's read this schedule really quick because I think this is the part that stands out to me the most. Georgia Tech had a really nice win to open the year at Colorado. Turns out Colorado is awful. They beat Gardner-Webb. They go back home. They beat Clemson by 3. Turns out Clemson is not very good. They trounce Temple in the Jeff Collins revenge game. And then they go on the road to Wake Forest and need overtime to beat Wake. And you guys know my opinion of Wake Forest. So Georgia Tech hasn't beaten anybody yet. Yes, they're 5-0, and they very well may be 6-0 after this week. But guys, this schedule is like cake until Georgia. Absolute cake.
It got easier too once Clemson wasn't very good. That was like, okay, now you don't really have too many tough games in the beginning or the back end of the schedule.
Yeah, Syracuse lost their starter. They get Syracuse later in the year. They've got BC, which is bad. Pitt's on a backup QB, although he may be better than Holstein. But Andrew, this team just doesn't. They haven't really shown that they can compete with good teams yet, and that's really no fault of their own because they haven't played anybody.
Yeah, college football rankings, we could talk about this for hours, are more narrative infused than anything else. And I think that the narrative surrounding a Georgia Tech and an SEC dominant media, that, the team in Atlanta is going to end up being pretty good and they have momentum, what have you. Analytics normally point you in a more realistic direction. Now, the analytics can steer you wrong, right? Because, you can have offensive and defensive analytical statistics that would suggest that you should be good, but you don't win games. See Virginia Tech in 2024, see Virginia Tech in 2020 and 21. But looking at the big SP plus, that Bill Connolly's top 766, Georgia Tech currently sits at 36 in that poll. Not poll, but in that analytical ranking, right? That is a pretty wide disparity between where the media has them, but I think 36 sounds about right. I think 36 is a team that is talented, that is capable, but isn't so good that you are outside of the realm of being scared by Robbie Ashford and really having should have lost that game, right?
Yep.
So I don't think Georgia Tech's a world beater. I think they're better than Virginia Tech. And I think we'll see how it goes on Saturday.
Yeah, Georgia Tech's offense is essentially like a modern-day Paul Johnson team where the quarterback's going to run it a bunch and the running backs are going to run it a bunch, and they're not going to throw it a whole lot. Georgia Tech's got way more rush attempts than they do passes. Haynes King is the team's leading rusher. He's been the leading rusher in 3 of their games so far. He's only thrown, I think, 3 touchdowns in 4 games. This is not a passing attack that I think should strike a lot of fear in Virginia Tech's secondary, albeit Virginia Tech's secondary not without its issues.
Yeah, they lean on the run with Haynes King and Jamal Haynes, and they seem to be running Haynes King more now. So there's a trend with Georgia Tech in their rushing game. They run Haynes King more in the games where they feel like they need to beat a defense that will be accounting for all the other hats, but may not be accounting for the extra hat, right? And so the better defenses they play, you'll tend to see Haynes King run more. That was a little bit different against Wake Forest. He was the leading rusher, right? And I am interested to see if Haynes King becomes a factor in the running game more often, right? Because I think one of the things that we've seen with Haynes King is he struggled with his health. He gets hurt. He gets banged up a lot because he's asked to do a lot in the running game. Jamal Haynes is a really capable running back, but you're only as capable as the offensive line in front of you. The offensive line, I think, in general for Georgia Tech has been okay, but they definitely prefer to run more rather than throw. Their passing game has been okay when they've needed to throw it. The issue is they haven't really needed to throw it a ton. Clemson really struggled to defend him in both facets of the game. So I don't know. I mean, Virginia Tech's been good against the run last 2 weeks. You know, they've, for the most part, done a pretty good job. And this is going to be another week where I think if Virginia Tech wants to give itself a chance to win, they're going to have to slow down Jamal Haynes. And by extension, Haynes King, especially if they're successful in shutting down Jamal Haynes, you're probably going to see more Haynes King runs. So that's something to keep an eye on here. And then if the running game is slowed down at the very least, how often are they going to go to the air? Because they've shown the ability to do it when asked. The thing about Georgia Tech is they haven't been asked to do it a whole lot so far.
Yeah, I mean that's at least to clinch competitiveness. I feel like that's the bar, the low bar that needs to be overcome by Virginia Tech. I mean, King's obviously a good player. There's mobility. I mean, you look at JP Powell, Malachi Hosley. You know, these are guys that are splitting a decent amount of snaps. And ultimately, like if you look at the Pro Football Focus numbers, like they're both playing well above average. Now, granted, like that is a full sample size with games against, you know, Temple and Gardner-Webb included in there. But they have that level of depth. They're going to be fresh. They're coming off the bye. You know, I hesitate to believe that this is a team that is going to overlook Virginia Tech. Now, I know you have like Duke the following week. That's presumably a harder matchup on the road, but it's not like, you know, Miami lies there. They've had 2 weeks.
They might lose one of these.
Yeah. I mean, again, they should have lost to Wake Forest. So right. I don't think anything's out of the question. They could lose to Virginia Tech. Like, I do not think that Virginia Tech is going to win this football game. I do believe it is within the realm of possibility, though. Mm-hmm. Like, in a few weeks when we're previewing Miami, I will be telling you in all likelihood, unless something monumental changes, that it is not within the realm of possibility that Virginia Tech wins that football game. It is today or on Saturday. But you have to stop the run. You're going to have to get to the quarterback. And you're going to have to play a damn near flawless game. Pretty much the exact opposite of what you did against Wake Forest. You can in no way beat yourself here, especially on the road in an environment that, I mean, Bobby Dodd is not like, you know, Sanford Stadium in Athens, but, you know, they're going to have a home crowd. There's going to be a level of enthusiasm. Their team is 5-0. There is and as we can see it spelled out, talking about the schedule, it's Virginia Tech, at Duke, Syracuse, at NC State, at Boston College, and Pitt. They're currently undefeated in conference. This is a team that thinks that, you know, they are very much alive, and they should believe that they're very much alive for a Charlotte berth.
Yep. And,
you know, I think the environment will at least reflect that to a degree, especially, you know, with the nice little 3:30 start time and what have you. So for Virginia Tech, it's about, you know, if you come out and play the game that you played against NC State, you have a shot.
Yeah.
And as I said, if you come out and play the game that you played against Wake Forest, you ain't beating anybody. Not in the ACC.
For sure. Point of opportunity here for Tech, in my opinion, is the running game. Georgia Tech's not particularly good stopping the run. They're 106th in the country in terms of yards allowed on the ground per game. And for all of the struggles that Virginia Tech's offensive line has had so far, the running game has been the best part, in my opinion. They've been able to make the most impact in that part of the game. the pass pro has been mostly horrendous, but running the ball, they've been able to generate a little bit of push, and it's helped that they've got a couple backs back there that they can give the ball to and maybe rely on them. But if Terrion Stewart can be healthy for this game, which is a big question mark, he was banged up against Wake Forest. But if you're able to rely on Terrion, Marcellus Hawkins, maybe some PJ Prelo to balance it out, Georgia Tech's defense might be gettable here. I don't think that this needs to be a game where Virginia Tech has to rely on the pass. And even if they do, Georgia Tech's only forced one interception so far this year. So it's not like they're doing a whole lot against the pass either.
Yeah, they're okay. Like, they have an okay defense. They're fine. They're not great. It's kind of yet to be seen if they're even good. Joey and I talk about this a lot. Like, the best part of Georgia Tech's team is their running game offensively. After that, it's kind of like, what's the opponent going to give you or force you into? And then how are you going to adjust to it? And can you, right? So far, Georgia Tech has passed every test, right? The last one, of course, by the skin of their teeth before the bye week, in a game that they should have lost. The defense has been fine. I think Virginia Tech can run on Georgia Tech. I don't know if they can throw on them. Mostly not. It's more to do with Virginia Tech than Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech is competent enough to give Virginia Tech issues in the passing game, right? I don't think this is a situation like, I look at the game last week against Wake Forest. Virginia Tech's passing offense was horrendous. Wake's defense isn't that good, right?
Yep.
And I think Georgia Tech's got a better defense than Wake Forest. So this is not a sit here and dismiss Georgia Tech podcast. That's not what I'm doing. I think Georgia Tech is capable, certainly, of giving Virginia Tech issues of what we've seen up front in a pass protection situation this year. Plus, Jerome's just hadn't been that good, even when he's had a clean pocket. So that's the other part of it. This is going to be heavily the outcome of this game is going to be heavily reliant on chunk plays and who stops the run. Because I think that is probably going to be the determining factor for both sides here. Because I just don't know. I'm more confident in Georgia Tech's passing game than Virginia Tech's, but I'm also probably more confident in Virginia Tech's secondary than Georgia Tech's. So it's kind of like something's got to give. And to Andrew's point, like, if Virginia Tech plays a sloppy game, it's not even going to matter. Like, they're 14-point underdogs for a reason. Like, Georgia Tech's been a good team this year, despite not having really played anybody. And their worst game was the one they just played before the bye, right? Take a week off, get healthy, get your minds right for a second half of the season here. So having 2 weeks to prepare, plus just being the more consistent team all year, lends to the 14-point spread. But I do think this is a game that Virginia Tech can compete in the right situation, because Georgia Tech under Brent Key, they play up to opponents. They also play down to opponents. They have tendency to lose games like this, or games like Wake Forest, or games like Duke, who they'll face next week. This is the stretch of the schedule where, if you're going to find a Georgia Tech loss, this is where it's most likely to come, right? And they don't always beat the teams that are. They've given Georgia hell, for example, the last two seasons they've played them, right, both at home and on the road. And Georgia has survived both of those games. Really survived the one last year, obviously going to overtime. That game was crazy. But where Georgia Tech plays down to opponents is in this part of the schedule against the lower tier team. I don't want to put Duke in this category. Duke's better than Virginia Tech and Wake Forest, but to the mid to lower tier portions of the conference is where Georgia Tech has a propensity under Brent Key to play down to their competition. It helps you get this game at home. If I had to pick like a game that they're more likely to lose, it would have been one of the road games, right? Either Wake Forest before the bye or Duke next week. So having Virginia Tech at home does help, but Georgia Tech's going to have to come out sharp, and more importantly, Virginia Tech's going to have to come out sharp here.
Here's an interesting thought experiment, if you will. Georgia Tech, right? Say they continue to win. They go undefeated in ACC regular season play. But they're winning games kind of in the form and fashion that they are currently, or that they have to this point, right? They lose to Georgia in the finale. They lose to presumably Miami in the ACC championship? They're not going to the playoff, are they?
It would be pretty difficult. I mean, the other teams around them would have to have like 3-4 losses. I think they're a one-loss Georgia Tech team, excluding the conference championship game, because we're not supposed to be discounting that loss when we consider their resumes, supposedly. If we're excluding that loss, they go 11-1 with a loss to Georgia. They have no quality wins at all.
Yeah.
And it would be different if they had maybe one where you could say, okay, a one-loss Georgia Tech team that has a win over a top 20 team or a top 15 team, it should be more deserving than a team that's got 3 losses but has maybe a couple quality wins. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what those resumes are, but I would lean towards no. I think that they probably need to win the conference or beat Georgia in order to find a way to get in.
And what is that 2 loss? And I Ricky, I 100%. They're not supposed to count the conference title game against you, and they didn't last year. Remember, SMU got in right after losing to Clemson and being the best team in the ACC by record all year. That SMU had a similar deal with their schedule. This is what happens when you have 1,000-team conferences. But they
have
didn't
too many teams in the playoff. But
right.
That's
well,
another
that
story.
too. That too. Thank you. Yeah, you and I are in lockstep there. The other thing too is that their resume is going to get compared. And again, we saw SMU sneak in last year, but their resume would be compared in that scenario you just laid out, Andrew, to a team like Notre Dame. It's going to be that if they go 10-2 and are similar in the quality wins category, which where's your quality win, and you share a common opponent, right? Remember, Notre Dame lost to Miami in the opener. You share a common opponent. You're going to be compared to teams like that or a 2 or 3 loss SEC team. I have a hard time believing Georgia Tech would get in just because the ACC, I think that especially the opponents they're playing on their schedule turned out to be pretty weak. Would it surprise you guys if Clemson dropped another game this year, maybe 2? Like, would that shock you? They looked great against North Carolina. Everybody's looking great against North Carolina. Like, would it shock you if Clemson came out and lost another game or 2? If that happens, where is Georgia Tech's best win? Duke? I don't know.
Clemson might drop 3 games for the end of the year. I mean, they still have SMU next week.
Mm-hmm.
They have to face Duke at home, but that's no slouch. They do get Florida State at home. They go at Louisville, which who the hell knows what Louisville's got. And they still have to go to South Carolina to finish the year.
Yep.
It ain't going to be easy for him, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do find it funny that Mike is over here already sliding that Notre Dame name back into the conversation.
I'm just telling you.
Let's not forget the Irish.
I'm just telling you.
Anyway, yeah, Georgia Tech needs to probably put some style points up against some of these teams, and they probably need a team like Duke to continue winning. And they're probably going to need to win the ACC championship game. But they got to make it there first. UVA looks like they're good. Florida State's still hanging around. Miami is obviously the overwhelming favorite there. SMU is still hanging around. There's a lot of teams that are going to be vying for that spot in a team that or a conference that's got 51 teams. There's probably going to be a tiebreaker scenario here. I don't know that there's going to be any like head-to-head tiebreakers. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how that works out. But Georgia Tech is gettable. They're definitely gettable.
Skin of your teeth wins against Wake Forest, and then like if they win close against the Hokies and Georgia and Duke, and like that's probably not going to get you in.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think Georgia Tech fans in general just are happy to see a team that's playing to expectations. I mean, going into this year, Georgia Tech was expected to be good, right? And they're 5-0 going into the bye. I mean, I get the Wake game was close, but that's a near perfect start. You beat Clemson, like okay, that's if you drew it up in the preseason. This is the best scenario, right? So I think they're just trying to get themselves on a fast track to Charlotte and get into a game with Miami that, hey, Miami looks different this year, like with how they've played these games. But it's not like a Georgia Tech Miami game's ever gotten weird. Like,
yeah, really.
every time they play. Yeah.
All right. Anything else before we get to picks? I know it's kind of a short preview here, but I think we've kind of covered it. Tech's too unpredictable, really, to kind of preview for a team like Georgia Tech that hasn't played anybody. I'm not saying Virginia Tech is the best team that Georgia Tech has played so far, but they're certainly not the worst. So if we're looking at pure talent, I mean, Tech is going to be one of the better teams that Georgia Tech has faced thus far, which isn't saying much, right? I want to make that abundantly clear. I'm not sitting here saying that Virginia Tech is a world-class opponent, but Georgia Tech is certainly going to have a bit of a challenge on Saturday.
I'm right there with you. Let's get to the picks.
First up, noon, ESPN, the Panthers. They've benched Eli Holstein. They pick up a big win. They're going to Tallahassee, though. They're 10.5-point dogs. I guess I'll go with Florida State. I think that they've kind of turned it around a little bit. I think they're back on track. Give me the Noles.
I'll take the Noles as well.
I will too. It's a freshman quarterback going up against a really good defense. So
seems pretty easy to me. Next up, Stanford on the CW. We got a CW doubleheader on Saturday. Hell yeah. Stanford's going to Dallas. 18.5-point favorites are the Ponies. You know, I'm going to take Stanford to keep this within 18.5. Why not?
I will also take Stanford.
Oh, man, I thought I was going to be on my own on that one.
All right, well, then I'll be the Lone Ranger here and take the Ponies.
Yeah, Izzy also had SMU there, but something tells me Stanford might be able to keep that close. 3:30 on Peacock. Really, we're back to playing games on the cock. Thanks, Notre Dame. Notre Dame is 16th in the country despite having a 3-2 record. Yuck. They're 21.5-point favorites, though, against NC State, which is teetering on cheeks, I guess, still. Are they still kind of on that line, Mike?
Yeah, Lamb.
Yeah, Notre Dame.
Yeah, I'm with Mike on that one. Notre Dame has 2 close losses to very, very good teams, to top 5 teams. So everyone else they've blown out, and everyone else is much closer to the level of NC State than the teams that actually challenge Notre Dame.
I'll take NC State to find a way to keep it somewhat close. Back to the CW, Wake Forest is going to Corvallis. Just these cross-country games are so stupid. Oregon State's bad. They're 0-6. Wake
so
is only
bad.
a 2.5-point favorite in this game, which should tell you Vegas and I are kind of on point there with what we think of Wake. With that said, I think Wake can cover 2.5 on the road.
I'm also taking Wake. The couple games I've seen pieces of for Oregon State, it's been so bad.
Yeah. So not good.
It's hard to pick Wake after last week, but I mean, they beat Virginia Tech on the road. The cross country is a little bit different, but I'll be a conference stand here.
Clean sweep for the Demon Deacons. 7:30 on the ACC network. Biggest game of BC season, which is essentially over. Eagles are 1-4. Clemson's a 14.5-point favorite on the road, despite not being very good themselves. Dylan Lonergan has more passing yards than Cade Klubnik, which I find interesting. Just to tell you how bad this Clemson offense has been. With that said, I'll take the Tigers to find a way to cover here. I think Clemson is too good of a team to not start figuring it out.
BC's quitting. So I'm going to lay him with Clemson, even though 14.5, the hook scares me a little bit on the road, but whatever.
Yeah.
Clemson.
Yeah, tough pick, spooky hook. Give me the Tigers.
Clean sweep for Clemson. Virginia Tech on the road to Atlanta. They're 14.5-point dogs right now. I'll be honest, I'm torn on this one. I'm still of the opinion that Georgia Tech is just fine, but Virginia Tech is not very good. With that said, I do think Tech can keep this within 2 touchdowns. So give me the Hokies to find a way to take the points and keep this relatively close. But I don't think that they're going to be within striking distance late in the fourth quarter.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say 1,000% agree. I don't think this is like a Virginia Tech's threatening to win situation, but I think there could be, and this is, again, a little biased based on the slow start we saw from Georgia Tech a couple weeks ago against Wake, but I could see Georgia Tech getting off to a little bit of a slow start. Maybe Virginia Tech hangs around, but then I think Georgia Tech gets some separation. I'm going to take the Hokies to cover, but I don't think they're ever threatening to win this game.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with Mike, and I'm with both of you. I mean, I don't think Georgia Tech's a world beater. I don't think that they're worthy of their number 13 ranking. I don't think Virginia Tech's the worst team in the world, but they're still overmatched on the road. Give me the Hokies to cover. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to be in the fourth quarter thinking, oh, my God, they're actually going to pull this one out. We shall see, though.
Indeed, we shall. We'll be back this weekend. We'll get you a recap of this game for sure. It'll be an interesting one. We'll see if there's much left for Virginia Tech to salvage from this crazy, crazy season. But until then, folks, go Hokies.